So if you're going into an organization, into a team, an environment, a new environment, what is the first thing that you're looking at to try and assess and hopefully change? I know there's so many different things that you will look at, but if you're walking in, what you got your eye on straight away?
It's a great question, by the way. And again, just some examples. So I went to one place and before I arrived, they gave me, here's our values, here's the stuff we believe in. Rusty, we'd love your feedback at the end of the day on it. And that's pretty open-minded, isn't it? I think of Northampton Saints. Dow said, I will do a bit of a debrief at the end of the day. And every coach sat in there and we chatted for probably an hour and a half. So probably looking at the people. Saracens is the best one. Like honestly, you can remember going in and like how people make you feel and how quickly you feel like you're part of it, and like they've paid attention to that. And then I guess I'm just interested in the interactions. I put a huge value on like co-creation and players, and ownership. I think is super important. Probably two things I think are super important: ownership and kindness. So people being kind to each other. By the way, being kind is also going like, hang on a second, Lewis, we agreed this and you've just dipped below that. Like, do you need any help from me on that?
Mm.
As well as putting my arm around you when stuff's going tough and high-fiving you when stuff. I mean, it can be lots of different things, can't it? And ownership, because like in our sport, you have to make decisions on the pitch. It was interesting, the player I spoke to yesterday, he said, Rusty, if I had a pound for every coach who's told me, like, I want the players to own it, da da da. And then on a match day, he's screaming down the thing, telling us what to do, giving us 20 things to put into our head before the game. I'd be a rich man. And so I probably, yeah, I guess like it's helpful if people signpost what they're about. And then the thing, and I know what agitates me. So the thing that stresses me the most is when they say this and they do this and there's a gap. So I can live with, Rusty, we're not that good. Like, we really want to get better. We're da da da. Versus, we're really kind, we care, we love our players. And then people shout, coaches are shouting and screaming at players or shaming them or sending them off the pitch because they made two bad passes. Like, so I guess there's not one thing. And the two Twitter threads I did recently around Oyonnax and New Zealand Sevens probably play into what you spoke about, that no environments are the same. So, for example, with Oyonnax, I would do projects and experiments. So we did a project around non-selection. Joe will probably have 1,000 non-selection conversations a year. He'll have more non-selection than selection. So let's get good at this. With New Zealand Sevens, we wanted to look at how the players could take more ownership. So we did some projects around things like them running half times. We looked at how we did meetings better so the players owned stuff. So I guess it's just different for different environments. And sometimes like people know what it is. Like other times you might go, look, have you thought about this? Should we have a bit of a play with this? And I'm lucky enough to have worked with some really open-minded coaches. But it's fascinating. So even a good one. So Joel Abbott, Oyonnax, and I just got promoted into the top 14. And I think Joe's a rock star. Joe's so different to me, which is also cool. So Joe's super process. So Joe said to me before Christmas, "Oh mate, I've done the planning and I've looked at the load and all this stuff, and like we're gonna have to come in on New Year's Eve." I'm like, mate, like honestly, like families, da da da. So anyway, so we come up with this way of like that. Essentially, we know they're going to get New Year's Eve off, but it's going to be like this really motivating experience. They're going to do some stuff that basically they get this off, and he does that. But just to like, I love the fact that Joe's instinct is this. I'd like to hear a different perspective on this, and for someone to go, hang on, like wives and girlfriends, how are they going to be feeling about this? And I might have told this story a couple of times, so apologies, but Tony Earnshaw, who's a Kiwi who plays at Oyonnax, and wasn't picked for the semi and the final, and had been an integral part of the team, and wasn't even in the squad. And so I saw after the final, I watched the final online, and then I messaged Tony. I said, "Oh, mate, great to see you on the pitch with your kids." And he messaged me back, and he said, "Oh, Rusty was amazing. I'm exhausted. I feel like I played 80 minutes with the lads." And like for someone who potentially it's like the end of his career, potentially it could be the last game he never played. He wasn't picked. He wasn't even on the bench, but like felt part of it. Is like, oh, that's good feedback, isn't it? It's the type of stuff that you go, again, that's something, isn't it? So what type of things am I looking at? Like, well, how engaged are the players that aren't playing? And what are the coaches doing around that? So as at Saracens, and Mark McCall was speaking to a player 2 days before the game, player who wasn't in the 23, but would be really important for them in terms of their energy as a group. And he spoke to him for an hour and a half. And he said, Rusty, that's my most important conversation of the day. Like, so, yeah, I think they would be, in my experience, and I've been in lots of environments, I think Sarries would be the most intentional around interactions. Who's the best person to go and have that conversation? Where, when, why? What does that conversation look like? Let's practice it a little bit. Let's get some feedback on the conversation. Like, the coaches are like doing deliberate practice as well as the players.
Hey, if you've enjoyed that video, then you can click right here to watch the full unedited version of that episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel by clicking the button below. I'll see you soon.